Hello, Shadow Airites. We are back. For those of you tuning in once again for the first time, this is Nacho Chez, aka Kevin, and with me today I have Soothslayer, aka Lewis.
Hello.
And so, we are picking up with Game 2 of the epic KA Leo versus A1's Lying Dragon game. We got to watch it while it was going on, and I love that this game is happening again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was such a tight and close game. It went down to the wire. You saw at the end, Lion Dragon just he couldn't pull it out. He just didn't have maybe another Soul Seeker to maybe buy a little bit more time, or really, the opportunity to do much to really turn it.
For those of you who are just watching it and don't get to see behind the scenes, one of our other members of the team put a squirrel picture into the chat, which apparently completely derailed Lewis's train of thought. It was literally just squirrel.
Yeah, for those of you familiar with it, I was like, squirrel! Yeah, sorry.
That's one of those moments I'm going to have to troll you with for a very long time.
It's an obscure reference. What was it? Over the Hedge, I think? It's an obscure reference, but moving on.
So we see here, KA Leo is going to advance and be facing against Monomax, whereas Lying Dragon is going to drop down and be facing... Oh, my bracket has not updated yet. My bracket is slow.
Was that game 3 or...
No, I'm sorry, that's right. That's just game 1. So we're going to be finding out which one of them drops down.
Okay, so...
Again, for those of you who are not with us this morning, Lewis and I have been streaming since about 5:30 my time. So, coherency may be a little bit off. We talk about endurance a lot for the competitors. It takes a lot of endurance to stream at this level as well.
Yes, and hence exactly why we have a rotation. But we are here because we love you guys, and we know you guys want to see the epic levels of competition and who comes out victorious and who is left waiting till next year. So we are here to bring that to you guys.
So I'll wait for the next game to load up. Lewis, any predictions on who's going to side what in?
As I'm not sure what their backgrounds and their histories are with different card games. I'm not sure how familiar they are with how sideboards are traditionally treated. I never, put my money against Lion Dragon. He's top level competitor, been there for a long time. Went deep into the first World Championship. I believe he lost in the finals. But he's been out for a while. He's been in a World Championship competition seat before. As for KA Leo, I'm not sure what his background is. He's obviously a very skilled player. He obviously knows what he's doing. So it's going to be interesting to see what logic they take for it. Do they side in some kind of hate against their opposing hero's opposing strategy, or do they side in stuff to kind of protect their strategy from anything their opponent sides in?
I think for Zaladar, it's going to be a little bit more siding in that, like we saw in that first game, item destruction. Try and keep those Soul Seekers and Wrath of the Forests off the field.
Yeah. I can definitely see maybe an extra Shriek of Vengeance coming in for Wrath of the Forest, maybe. I don't know how much Abstraction he's going to hold on to, because Soul Seeker is an important card in the matchup, but considering that is likely the only weapon he's running, I don't know if he goes maybe up in ley lines, or up in Acid Jets maybe, or if that kind of dilutes the currency of his deck, so to speak. So, I don't know, I mean, it'll be interesting to see which line of strategy he takes.
That's a very good question. Curious with Bane buff, if he's got those not Spectral Sabers. Wow, brain just completely shut down. Everyone watching, I sincerely apologize for that. If he's running those Spill Eater bands to try and just hold off that Zadar ability.
Well, Spill Eater bands is one of those great cards that in the quick match ladder in decklock tournaments, you're not like to see a ton of, maybe one off in a deck just in case you come across an unfavorable matchup, or you're against a heavy burn racing mage, and you can kind of slap it in late and maybe solve for time, maybe turn the game around. But in a uh, event where you're allowed to use a sideboard, it's a great card to have maybe two of, maybe even three of in your sideboard, just against a matchup where it might be very relevant. And I can't think of many more relevant matches than this against Zaldar with lots of Shadow Fonts, lots of Thaddeus pings. I mean, there's going to be lots of stuff that Splitty Bands just outright stops.
And I think that combined with the Soulseeker healing could really spell a problem for Zaladar if he decides he goes for that.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw a matchup with I believe K Leo yesterday where he was I believe he was running a Zaladar and he was facing against a Baduru, and the Baduru we were actually no, it was early this morning. So, again, long days, one bleeding to another. Yeah, we talked about sideboarding, about whether or not he would bring in the Spilly Bands there. It made less sense there because he was running lots of resource destruction and lower curve, whereas Blind Dragon and his Rainbow here has a higher curve, and he's more likely to hit 6 resources, maybe even 8 or 9, where he could play a Spell Your Bands and an ally on top of it. So it's much more likely that he will have a Spell Your Bands or 2 or 3.
It's very, very true. I mean, even just having one in there, as long as these games typically go, having one at the critical moment can really flip it. On the flip side, Banebo might toss in some Aldmore Disciples. We've seen how effective those are against the Zaladar decks.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't see any in that last match main decked, but they are a great sideboard card. They're a great kind of a hate card against Boris and Zaladar that you can keep a set of copies of in a sideboard, and considering that they don't really dilute your deck at all, they're a fantastic option.
So I think, regardless of how they decide to decide or don't side, or how they decide to play this next match, I think we're just going to see a great game out of both of them.
Absolutely. I mean, that first game was a fantastic game. We've seen tons of fantastic games over the last 2 days, and that was just right there in the the pantheon of just high level competition played by skilled players.
And we are currently just waiting on them to get game 2 going to see if KA Leo is going to make a nice sweep of it, or if we're actually going to have a bump into a best of 3 again between these two.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if we did have a best of 3. Line Dragon, you can never truly count him out. He's a high level competitor, and he's been here before. He was in the semifinals. It was yesterday. Was semifinals or finals? Yeah. Semifinals yesterday.
He was in the semis. He got knocked down to the losers bracket and came back for the finals.
Yes, so he does know what he's doing. I can definitely see him adjusting and coming in and forcing a third game.
And I kind of feel sorry for both these players because they've both had very rigorous games so far, and one of them is going to go into the losers bracket, and I have no doubt they're going to do everything in their power to get back into those finals from there. But what I'm kind of noticing is that if they do that, you're looking at both of them having played extreme long games yesterday, extreme long games today, whereas Monomax might be sitting back having a glass of cold iced tea right now.
That may be the case. I mean, if I'm in either of their seats, I was not particularly happy to see my opponent be the other player, just because that match is so evenly matched and it's so detailed, intricate, and there's so much pressure on every decision that it absolutely pushes them to their limit. And it's actually one of the longer matches we have per round that we've seen so far when these two players play each other, because every decision is just that much more pivotal, and every mistake is just punished that heavily.
We're also kind of looking at, Leo. We talked about Lion Dragon yesterday and how he had to do the LCQ, and then immediately from that had to start the World Championship, and then was all the way through, had the extra games yesterday, and then has to come back today. But Leo started off the day against that Bataroo deck, and that Bataroo deck really, really, really ate up some time.
Well, absolutely, that battery deck. I don't know how much stamina he has left, but that battery deck ate up a chunk of it because it took a lot to beat that deck. It went very much down to the wire. That was the longest match of the round, and there wasn't a whole lot of break between that and the next round. And that's gotta weigh down on you. That's gotta really have an impact on the physical side of playing a tournament such like this, where not much time to grab food in between rounds or to keep yourself hydrated, and it wears on you. It does.
And I'm kind of, if I'm in the losers bracket, or if I'm down or on the, if I'm monomax right now, I'm looking at this game and I'm like, huh, I really hope they take a long time. I hope they just tag each other out and make this a best of three and just take it to the limit every game. Because if I'm a competitor in this, the longer they take, the less time either of them are going to have to rest after the semifinals before that finals round. And that's just less advantage they're getting. Or if I'm monomax, it's more advantage that I'm getting.
Well, I mean, in various sports, there's always a discussion of does having essentially like especially in stuff like football or baseball stuff like that, where you have some rounds that go really long, some rounds that go really short. And if you have a team that advances quickly versus a team advances is takes a while to advance, does that have a negative impact for the person who advanced quickly, where they're kind of coming in a little cold, their mind's not as sharp, they're not as ready. So
And
that might
now
happen here as well.
we're about to find out. The game is up, and spectators, I have a little surprise for you. Our banhammer wielding defender of Midgard, Dimchi, aka Triton, has joined us.
Hello.
And I totally just blew a wild Triton has appeared. I really should have gone with that.
Yeah, like is that too late? Is that too late to throw that in there? uh,
Ooh, Zaldar skipping his turn 2, giving Lying Dragon that nice opening of Karash combining with Zaladar, or Thaddeus, putting some early damage on the hero.
yeah, as you can see that Leo is not having a little bit of a slower start, whereas Lion Dragon is so far curved out pretty strongly into what he wants to be seeing. So it'll be interesting to see if he can continue to curve out well into a good 4 cost card, maybe a 5 cost card to really kind of keep the pressure on. And it's also interesting to see if Leo Zaldar, if he can kind of hold serve and just stave off the aggressive start from his opponent.
So we have FDL in the chat mentioning that he almost lost his lunch on the stove because he forgot that it was going, because our stream is just so awesome it was distracting him. And I would just like to point out that our motto now is no interrupts. Now, you should know better than to even try to eat while this thing is going. We've given up eating and sleeping.
We gave up sleeping
maybe you
a long
have.
time ago. We gave up sleeping a long time ago. And we're seeing that Dragon continues to curve out into a very optimal start, where on his turn 4 he's throwing down Wrath of the Forest, so he can his allies are likely not long for this world, but he is thoroughly comfortable with that right now, as he will just start rebuilding his hand so he can keep the pressure up and keep the pedal to the metal, so to speak.
Kind of humorously on that turn, he had to invest his ability and 2 ally attacks to put that gargoyle in the graveyard, which tells you how much he really does respect the power of that gargoyle, saying, nope, that cannot pass. That cannot be allowed to stay.
Yeah, Gargoyle is a pivotal card in this matchup, as it's a card that's very difficult to remove for both players.
And Zaldar beautifully leveraging a Shriek of Vengeance with a Thaddeus ping to just mop up the board very neatly and take himself from having skipped his first few turns into a definitely relevant presence.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing here is Leo having a very optimal going second start here, where it's allowed him to minimize the amount of damage and to just hold serve and really start setting up his plan so he can turn the corner and start oppressing his strategy, or impressing his strategy upon his opponent.
So, Triton, since you've got to kind of relax and enjoy the World Championship events thus far as just a pure spectator, what have you thought so far?
I have not been able to watch it. I've been on a plane.
Ah.
Yes, I'm just now joining you guys. So
Well, I promise you the replays are going to be truly amazing.
Yes, I definitely plan on watching those.
We are having some fun today watching almost a grudge match between KA Leo and A1 Lying Dragon.
Well, absolutely. If I'm Leo, I'm not happy to see the second Wrath of the Forest, but there are worse plays he could have. And considering that, and if I'm Lying Dragon, I'm happy to see that Wrath of the Forest stuck that one turn, which meant that he likely didn't have a streak of vengeance to kill it, which meant that he probably doesn't have it now. So my Plasma Behemoth is that much more likely to either die and draw me a card, which I'm comfortable with, or live and just wreck the scene, which I'm even happier with.
Well, we can be relatively sure that the Thaddeus or the Plasma Behemoth is going to die. The Thaddeus Zaladar combo was more than enough to put him down. The question is Zaladar going to use his ability to take him out, throw down a mind control, or is he going to just maybe give the Behemoth a little burst to save that ability up? Which would be the most surprising play, I think, in history.
And the Shriek comes down.
And we talked about this in between the matches, citing in some Shrieks of Vengeance because it could give you that little bit of oomph for the item destruction and being leveraged extremely well in this game.
Ooh. If you're Lying Dragon, yeah, if I'm Lying Dragon, I'm a little bit annoyed about that because that's the just fantastic optimal play for him right there. To Shriek my draw engine, slap his own down, and wipe my board.
Honestly, I'm kind of happy with it. The Plasma Behemoth dropping is a multiple target threat. It's a great card to have right now. And you see Zaladar is digging. He doesn't have an answer to it immediately, which means that Plasma Behemoth is going to be able to put in a little bit of work this turn.
Well, absolutely, that Plasma Behemoth right there is definitely going to not only put in some work, but it's going to just ruin any plans Leo has of building up a board for the next turn or two until he can really profitably answer it. However, he does have a draw engine, and we did see a Soul Reaper from him and an Eternal Renewal. So if you're Lying Dragon, you do have to keep in mind that anything that you do to him can technically be undone if you don't press him hard enough.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of the Plasma Behemoth, is he's a threat and an answer all in one. An ally has to be incredibly high health to survive the abuse that thing can throw at him. In addition, if you don't play an ally, if you don't play a threat of your own, the Plasma Behemoth can just stack more damage than an Eternal Renewal can heal off at this point. I mean, we always joked in the past about how Plasma Behemoth was just a broken common, and I think you're going to see some of that strength right here. He needs to be respected and dealt with as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, I would not be surprised if Liu resourced up to 5 here and slammed the mind control and, kind of fist pumped a little bit.
He's actually going to font to shock it off the field.
Interesting. He went up to 5 anyways and fonted. So I guess that's showing that, having that active draw engine is allowing him to just slowly creep his resource curve up a little higher to where he wants to be so that he can start throwing down multiple threats, considering Lying Dragon does not have a draw engine in play, and it's kind of playing off the top a little bit.
Well, we have mentioned in the past that elementals need that higher curve to operate correctly. Mm-hmm. And it's also possible Zaladar's a little gun-shy over that Bataroo having a Nightprowler drop on him. Because you saw that really shook his world when that Nightprowler hit earlier.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think we're likely to see a Nightprowler in this matchup. I mean, I would be a little bit shocked, but I could definitely see it putting in work there.
I highly doubt it as well. While it would be extremely effective in this matchup, it would be so niche to just this particular style of matchup that it would be kind of a danger to even put in the sideboard.
Yeah. Ooh, and again, we see him bin a Soul Reaper off of an Antimatter. You gotta think, what did he pick over the Soul Reaper? Did he possibly pick maybe an Eternal Renewal over it again with the same choice? Or did he, decide that maybe he doesn't need it in this matchup?
I would be curious to think he didn't need it, because he's staring down the barrel of 2 gargoyles, which are both very difficult to remove allies. Banebo's ability is still charged, and you've got to worry about Soul Seekers. That's a huge amount of burst damage that can appear next turn. I definitely want the healing of that Soul Reaper.
Absolutely. Triton, what do you think of the odds of him siding in maybe a second Soul Reaper? So he can throw away that one there and still have one that he's comfortable with drawing at some point in the game.
Well, if he needed it before and only had ×1, I would definitely side in another one. Because in Call of the Crystals, when I played Elementalis, I'd have at least 2 of those things in there every time. And if he really needs it, then I would rather have a second one, just in case I need to throw away the first one.
It seems Zaldar did select a little bit of tech for this game and has played a Disciple of Aldmore to the field.
Absolutely. Correct call on your part, Mr. Nacho. He brought in at least one, likely several disciples for the matchup, knowing that they are particularly strong against Banebo. And as we can see, Banebo is not particularly happy to see them, so Dragon just elects to semi-damage race and just ignore it.
Well, I wouldn't say he's so much ignoring it. He has an answer to it that he just played, but the answer is a one-turn charge. He needs that Plasma Behemoth to survive the turn to finish it off. But what's good about that is that Plasma's going to absorb some shock. He's going to absorb that attack, and we're still looking at Banebo still holding that Gargoyle on the field, even though Zaldar just tapped everything out to pull that play off.
Yeah.
And there you see the Knight recurring that Plasma Behemoth.
Yeah, we're going to see that Disciple slowly start creeping up and having a strong impact on this game, as it's just a card that's very difficult for Line Dragon to deal with. I mean, if I'm him, I'm not particularly happy that my opponent got one down first, as it's difficult for him to deal with if I throw one down too.
Well, if I'm Lion Dragon, I'm actually kind of comfortable where I'm sitting. I've got the Plasma Behemoth in hand, I've got the Knight on field. Zaldar needs lots of answers because I have all the threats right now. The Disciple of Aldmore is annoying because I can't kill it, but there's enough disparity in the life and enough threats in my hand that I have control. Leo is having to bring answers.
True,
one of them.
The Mind Control was a very excellent answer. It closed a large gap in that life disparity. It brought down the ally. It got the Shadow Knight off the field. It's just a fantastic play. I think Disciple of Aldmore is going to help close that disparity a little bit more, but he still has to look at that Gargoyle. That's been there 3-4 turns now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're Lion Dragon here, the lack of drawing your side is probably something that's going to
and you see
impact the game over time.
He respects your opinion. He says lack of draw was hurting me. Time to put a draw engine out.
I'm a little bit intrigued why he deviated from his strategy there. Where his strategy for the last several turns is, I'm going to throw down a threat every turn that must be answered that turn, and I will force him to have to keep digging for answers or have to play the answers he has, which are likely very expensive, and figuring that at some point he will either run out and have to play turn renewal and take a turn off so he can refill, which I will punish him for, or so that, he'll spend all his turns answering, and by doing that, he won't really be able to expand his own board state, which will buy me more time to advance mine.
And there we see the font, which was pretty much the exact play Zaldar was looking for. Close up that life disparity a little bit. Actually, I think, nope, still has 1 point more than him. Gets the Gargoyle off the field. Does have the downside of refilling that Banebo's hand.
I'm curious, what do you think of the odds that Lion Dragon maybe decided an extra perfect shot or two, considering that he's likely to end up facing against Disciples and other allies that he, gargoyles and such, that he might need to bring down within range of either his ability or a Soul Seeker shot.
Well, we do see that he's playing a bit more of a conservative game now, because just then when he played the Thaddeus, he chose to ping that the Acolyte, rather than the Zaldar, even though that would have put Zaldar's health much lower. And we've seen that Soul Reaper hit the graveyard. He's gonna worry that there still is another Soul Reaper, and if that's true, he needs to get the field clear. keep control of the board to not take any more damage.
Well, I mean, you can see they're both playing very patiently here. Okay, I think what you guys are seeing right now is that both allies are going to die, but what Leo's doing is he's essentially sculpting his opponent's graveyard stack and making sure that he has the ally on top that he does not want him to bring back with the Shadow Knight. Because he doesn't want him to be able to bring back Destiny Thaddeus where he can take advantage of the ping and have an ally that doesn't have to attack to do damage. So he would rather him bring back a Morbid Acolyte.
It explains why he took back the mind control.
Yeah, that's what that meant right there. Is he was just sculpting his graveyard to something he's comfortable with.
Kind of an interesting play just then. He elected to leave the Morbid Acolyte alive to put a little bit more damage on Zaldar. Basically, he's essentially doing a Soul Reaper check. If you have Soul Reaper, there's effectively a chance you can come back from this. If you don't have Soul Reaper, I've got you on a 2-turn clock. Less if you don't deal with both of my allies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's forcing him to have either another mind control or I believe a fourth Shadow Font, or some way to kill both these allies. Because now he has a Morbid now that he has a disciple, of his own. That's an ally that his deck is going to have a hard time answering because he can't use Zeldar's ability on it.
Well, the Disciple herself isn't so much of the issue. It's the fact that Banebo's ability is charged next turn, so Banebo needs any of 3 sources of damage. Either the allies that are in play, or a Soul Seeker out of his hand to mop this up. Zaldar taking the time to get that Wrath of the Forest out, basically saying if you don't, and it looks like he didn't have an answer.
Yeah, he did not have an answer, and I believe, as predicted, Dragon's going to force a third game.
So speaking of third games, our TOs have reported in, and it appears Raphael has prevailed 2-1 over Viact, and Black Mask and his Bataroo have prevailed 2-1 over Eclipse.
I believe that eliminates Eclipse from the event.
And Viact as well. They are both eliminated from the event. Kind of a shocking upset to see the former world champion knocked out again.
Yeah, I was silently pulling for him and Zana to make a comeback, but it was tragically all for naught.
I think the world of Eclipse. He and I have shared a guild before, and I think that he's a fantastic player and definitely deserved his winner's title last year. But I really want to see Bataroo win a championship.
You know what? I agree. I would like to see that, considering that it wasn't too long ago where Bataroo was not receiving much love from the fan base. So I'd like to see him turn around and really show players that he's just as good as the other 19 heroes.
Yes, and see a lot more of him in QM right after the championship, just showing up out of nowhere.
Although I do think that at this point in time, it's entirely possible that the event is going to run through K.A. Leo, who has just made his presence both known and felt throughout this entire event. Okay, while we are waiting for their third game, I'm kind of peeking in on the Raphael Majira matchup where he's piloting an Aladwin against the aforementioned Bataroo of Black Mask, I believe. Very early on in the match, but it's interesting to see a matchup like that where one hero is usually very popular, one hero is usually not played as much, and they're kind of like holding their own, kind of really relatively evenly matched. So, now a question for you guys, especially you, Trident, as you're new to the stream. We haven't been on for the last 2 days, as you mentioned that you were traveling. after game two, same for game three, where likely one of you is going to be advancing to, the round, and then the other one's going to be knocked to the losers bracket, which where you never want to be in an event of this caliber. Do you adjust your sideboarding plan between game two and game three, or do you just kind of stick the course and don't just stick to what you're doing and just run it back the way it was?
Well, it depends on if I saw anything new from my opponent that I have anything in my sideboard for. Because, well, I don't know. I'm not exactly very a veteran at sideboards or anything, but yeah, it would just depend on if there's anything new that I need to be concerned about.
For me, it's really, really, really going to depend. I mean, Dimchi, for someone who's newer to sideboards, nailed it. It's going to depend on what I saw that game. Game one, you saw one strategy. Sideboards have been known in the past to allow players to completely change strategies in game two. So seeing that, it would concern me if I saw something that I hadn't seen before. But if it's just the same old, then hopefully I sideboarded well the first time.
Absolutely. I mean, sideboarding is very much an art and not so much a science. Where, I mean, it's a difference of player preference of how much you sideboard, how little you sideboard. Some people don't sideboard much at all. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think that, I mean, as at the level that these two players are playing, I don't think they each saw something from the other that surprised them as much. So I think it's just a matter of maybe tweaking one copy of this, maybe one copy of that, so they can go up from 4 to 3 or down from 4-2-3 to fit a spot or something. So, anyways, yeah, I'm currently watching Black Mask against Raphael, just kind of in the background. I'm giving you guys an update. I do believe that Black Mask does have this one locked up. He's currently in a commanding lead over Raphael Majir, who is piloting a Ladwin, and Black Mask is piloting a Baduru deck.
So we may actually see the one of the final humans leaving the tournament.
We may.
What was that now? I'm sorry.
Lewis is taking a little bit of a sneak peek while we're waiting on Lying Dragon and Leo to boot up their final game. And in his sneak peek, he's seeing Raphael Majir's Elwyn piloted against Black Mask's Bataroo. And apparently Bataroo, according to Lewis, has taken a nice commanding lead.
The game has just concluded, and Black Mask has just risen victorious.
So 1-0 for Black Mask. Very nice.
Yeah, we still have hopes of seeing a Badru in the finals today, and we still have hopes of Black Mask coming back for possibly his grudge match against Leo, who is quickly racking up a lineup of very prestigious veterans with a grudge.
So in our chat, I apologize for not catching this earlier. Yuri Styles asked what it is about Bataroo. I'm thinking he's asking what it was about Bataroo that made him not so popular during Call of the Crystals and has kind of made him more usable in Dark Prophecies. So I was curious, Lewis, being one of our designers, do you have any input?
Well, I think the commonly accepted belief then was that he is obviously a weapon hero. His ability targets weapons and allows you to kind of cheat them in for free. And because of that, in the core set, he didn't really have a weapon that was kind of his own. Whereas Soul Seeker was something that Gwen loved and just used to great effect, and still loves and used to great effect. And all the other hunters weren't really heavily weapon oriented, but he didn't really have that one or two cards that really kind of made him his own. But now in Dark Prophecies, he's been given several cards that he can kind of make his own. Like we saw earlier, Disciple of Aldmore is a great card that he can get an advantage out of. He's been given like Grundler's double, which is a love letter to him from any and everybody. I mean, that's a weapon that he loves. He gets a lot of advantage out of it. They call it like perfect shot that help him deal with any heavier allies that he might have had trouble dealing with otherwise. So there's a few cards that were given not necessarily for him, but to enrich and deepen the class as a whole. That he's finding help his bad matchups be that much more manageable and have actually reversed some of his bad matchups into matchups that are now good matchups. So he's definitely a hero now that you can easily play in quick match and rattle off a strong series of wins with.
That is very, very true. I think it was kind of shocking after the set first released. You saw Bataru and Banebo kind of alternating on which Shadow Hunter was more popular, taking those initial few tournaments right after the set came out, right after Dark Prophecies really hit. You saw both back and forth taking different tournaments, and then Bataru just kind of went quiet for a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bataru is one of those heroes that not a lot of players really play a lot. None of them get a lot of attention to, but he's crept up on people as a hero that has to be respected. I mean, he won one of the qualifier events, and he won it in pretty strong fashion against a strong opponent. He's been a respected presence in the mid to top tier levels for a little while now.
That's very true. And we are getting yelled at in the chat stream because there is no game to show. We are still waiting on Leo and Lion Dragon to play their deciding match so that we can determine who's going on to the winner's bracket semifinals.
I mean, I guess maybe we could jump another match temporarily, I guess.
I think that might be the good thing until we can wait for this game to get back up.
Yeah.
As we've seen in the past, though, the Leo versus Lying Dragon. Oh, apparently I searched for the wrong name.
I'm curious. What do you guys in the chat and Kevin and Demchi, what do you? Were there any heroes that you guys thought might make a showing during this event that you haven't seen?
Well, so far all I've seen is Zaladar and Banebo. So I don't think I can answer that one yet.
Yeah. What about you, Kevin? Were there any heroes that you thought might make a showing that you haven't seen?
Several, actually. I was kind of shocked that we haven't seen more mages in general. We know Nishaven got an invite here, so I was kind of shocked no one brought him. And today, I'm really, really, really shocked that we did not see an Amber. Like, it was like yesterday we had like the plague of Amber, and it was cured, so no one has it anymore.
It's funny because I'm actually really surprised nobody brought, or as far as I know, nobody brought Lance. He's highly regarded as one of the top heroes, and for anybody who's played against the top tier players or plays in the top levels themselves, high ranks, lots of games, you would see him all the time. I mean, he's a very, very strong hero, and we just have not seen him today. Why do you think that is, you guys?
I think it's because not a lot of people have been using him in the quick match as of late, so no one really had to practice with him. I think he has a lot of excellent tech options and a lot of viable builds. I just don't think that the people felt that he had enough strength to carry them through yesterday and enough practice to carry him through today. So, just to let you fans and the chat know, the KA Leo versus the A1 Lion Dragon deciding match is up. Of course, the second we go away, it pops up and is ready to go. Do you guys want us to wait it out for the Bataru, or do you want to see the final decision that leads to the winner's bracket?
I vote for Lion Dragon just because, might as well finish what you start. We've hitched our wagon to this horse, so might as well ride it out.
Yeah, I'd like to see the conclusion of this one as well.
Alrighty, let's get back to it.
The only vote we got was to put something on.
And I agree with that vote.
Yeah, I'm just laughing about that because it's like I feel like we're on television and the person holding the remote is yelling at us to do something, expecting us to hear them, and conveniently we can. So yeah, game is on and it is going pretty action-packed first few turns here,
Got a pair of Karashes instantly touching down, followed by a Gargoyle.
and yeah, again we see we see well I'm a hair ahead of you guys, so I'll wait for more before I comment anything.
See the Morbid Acolyte touch to the field.
Yeah, I got a comment once that I'm world's
Banebo
fastest
electing
fortune
not
teller.
to
So,
sacrifice.
when it does not surprise me when you have a deck like this where a lot of your allies, a lot of the important allies you're going to play are 3 cost or so, maybe 4 cost. Staying at 3 is not altogether anything that's radically surprising. But
It's a
again, we're
surprising
seeing
move in
Dragon
that
here
we haven't
just
seen it a lot done in the World Championship so far, where people tend to sack and curve up. I agree with the play completely. We were talking just a minute ago about Lance. I had a Lance deck that I loved for a very long time that specialized in not going over 3 resources unless necessary.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, after Line Dragon takes the board, we see Leo, not to be outdone, killing 2 allies himself.
You're definitely seeing the difference in their abilities, where Zaldar's hits harder but takes that extra turn to charge up, but Banebo's is a lot harder to stop, and that definitely mattered a lot. Now they're both using their abilities extremely well to control the board. And Caglio taking his time, plotting out his sack decisions, figuring out where to go from here.
Of course. Yes, he's the most deliberate player in the event, I believe. Takes his time and is very methodical with all of his decisions.
Well, I would be too if I was in the World Champions.
We had a really interesting game yesterday where the game, I think, was actually less than 5 minutes long.
Oh,
Did we?
interesting.
Which one?
Yeah, it was I believe it was the one where I guest starred on GDC's team. It was Amber versus Eldwin, and the combat math was perfect. If your ally had 4 health, Eldwin had a fireball. If the ally had 3 health, Amber dropped a JD. It was just like perfect combat math the entire game.
Sounds like a very elementary game.
As far as I'm concerned, Eclipse, you're still a world champion. You're just not the world champion for 2013.
Yes.
There we see
Yeah,
the Aldmore getting
Eclipse,
quickly answered by a mind control.
which shows you how much respect there is for him in this matchup, where he's just that difficult to deal with for Zaladar, and to an extent he's that difficult to deal with for Bambo as well. And yes, iClip, you may not be the 2013 champion, but you are still a former champion, and we appreciate and respect you for it.
Ooh, and here we see that Soul Seeker coming down. Got that Darkwood Wraith in perfect position, and Banebo retakes the board.
Again. Now, as there was a mind control last turn, I believe, it'll be interesting to see if he has another one.
And again, Leo taking that time, making sure he makes the right call. Looks like he's going to drop a threat and his draw engine this turn.
Yeah, he decided that he's going to expand his board position for later in the game rather than expand it for today. He's going to expand it for tomorrow.
Kind of interesting there. You see the Banebo chooses not to use as a Soul Seeker durability. And another Darkwood Wraith getting the board back in favor of Zaladar.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Lion Dragon, that might actually have been a surprise card for me in the matchup, where I don't know if I anticipated Race to possibly come out of sideboard, but I did anticipate, the Disciples, so that may be something that has a strong impact on the game.
Hmm.
You see this Darkwood Wraith making extremely good use of Banebo's lower curve, kind of turning it against him.
Yeah, as we can see, uh, it may not look it obviously, but Leo is definitively ahead on board here, and kind of not completely ahead in card advantage. He does have the draw engine that he has access to, and he can put that to work at any time he really decides he needs to. And that Shadow Knight's not likely to live until Lion Dragon's next turn, so Leo is trying to increase his incremental advantages to amount to a pretty strong, robust advantage.
I'm not sure if he has the capability to do that successfully. I mean, Leo's incremental advantages. Yes, I was thinking Banebo.
Yes.
Yeah, Banebo is in a bad position right now. He's got multiple targets, each of which is a legitimate threat on their own, and he doesn't have answers for these kinds of multiple targets at once.
Nope.
Interesting seeing Lion Dragons just supply two threats to the board, two relatively difficult to deal with threats, and not attacking nor using his ability, just choosing to be a little bit more patient and laid back and hold on to until he has a profitable situation to use either one.
So, Triton, in your position, would you continue if your Zaldar could keep pushing the threats out, or would you kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and just try and hold what you've got?
I'd probably, let's see, what are the health of these gargoyles again?
They're full.
Yeah, I guess I would probably have done the same thing, just pulled the antimatter out. Because I mean, you've only got one more threat, but his hand was getting kind of low, so I would definitely want some more cards in hand.
I don't know. I think in that situation it depends on what you have in hand and whether or not you have a way to. Well, obviously, sacrificial lamb there helps him a lot. Whether or not you have something else to do with those other three resources that can allow you to take full advantage of your turn instead of just activating the antimatter, maybe swinging and attacking somewhere, and then just passing the turn. So I think that was a strong play there to, decide that he may not be able to keep the advantage forever, but what he can do is he can start, pushing towards, a later game where he has more hand advantage, more resource advantage, and just kind of push his opponent out of the game.
There we see a very well leveraged Bad Santa ends up putting Zaldar in a good position. He kind of denied Banebo the ability to kill off the...
Bad Santa?
Not Bad Santa, Sacrificial Lamb.
Sacrificial Lamb.
Killing off his own Darkwood Wraith after going after her ability. Extremely well leveraged. Thankfully for Banebo, though, he had that extra Soul Seeker that managed to take a great plan and kind of turn it on its ear.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where, I'll essentially let you have the board this turn so that I can sculpt my hand, I can sculpt my answers and build up my resources and give myself more options so that I can really make a stronger push a turn from now or 2 or 3 turns from now where you're still kind of fighting, pushing with a small amount of resources. Oh, and here I thought our guild was exclusive. I thought Kyle was the headmaster of our guild.
And there we see a poison arrow coming down. It won't kill the gargoyle, but it'll prevent him from retaliating while Banebo works on a way to kill the gargoyle.
I wonder if Poison Arrow was a card that got cited in as an answer to, maybe the Disciples.
Might be a good call. It's working well with the Gargoyle here. It put him in that perfect position where next turn Banebo can hit him with the ability and the Soul Seeker to take him off the field and eat him.
Absolutely.
And that
What I
Knight
think
is a threat of its own. It's a threat that generates more threats, and that's never a fun thing.
See, what I think is, the Power of Remission here, one of the interesting cards I think that we haven't seen so far in this matchup that I think would have been a really interesting inclusion is, having both antimatter in here, but I think it's interesting we haven't really seen any Infinity Cores, considering that this is a slower matchup, it's a more grindy matchup, and a lot of your 3-cost allies are just of the utmost importance, and having essentially an engine allows you to heal 2 every turn or every other turn could have been, crucial. So it's interesting to see, you guys think there was maybe a reason he went away from that, or
we haven't seen him using them at all, so I just don't think he really is a fan of the Infinity Core system. He may not care for the math it represents.
Maybe. I mean, that's, certainly understandable.
And there we see a good old-fashioned Knight loop hammering down.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And with Leo having his ability up, just slowly, as we see, he's up to 8 resource now. He still has the antimatter in play, and just kind of sculpted his hand to what it is he's happy with seeing.
If I'm Zaldar, that turn kind of annoyed me. I don't like the fact that the Knights can loop like that.
If I'm Zaldar, I'm not too worried about it, because I can present, in this case, 2 threats here, and his ability is not up, and I can, I can press a form of advantage right now. So I'm not too annoyed by it, because it's not in a situation where he can loop it and I don't have an answer to it.
Interestingly, he forsakes the Knight loop there to get down to draw engine and doesn't do a lot to take back the board. He's more setting up for future turns.
It's far too early to tell which guild would have the strongest representation at the in the later rounds. There aren't too many more rounds left, but in the later rounds. But I do think that Leo is showing himself to be a force that needs to be respected. And
if I'm not mistaken on my affiliations, I think all 4 of our largest guilds currently have a representative still very much in this tournament.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, everyone's still in it. Go.
Yeah. Yeah. Power G made a comment that Japanese is close to Chinese. Not quite. I'm sure a Japanese or Chinese individual would wholeheartedly disagree.
We're not going to bring that up because we're not going to start that fight.
Nope. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh out loud like that. As you see, Shadow Knight being a form of advantage engine right now, he's just using it as a way to pseudo kind of draw a way of getting an extra card so that he's not card advantage completely out of the game. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the match is starting to really turn in favor of Leo. How do you feel about that, Dechi? Do you think that there's a way that Dragon can kind of claw his way back, or do you think that K. Liu has kind of turned the corner and is ready to kind of put the pedal to the metal, if you will?
He's definitely making a comeback. I'm sure he threw away his Shadow Font there, so I guess he already has the kind of answers he's looking for. So I'm not quite sure what Lying Dragon could do here to bring it back. Because because I think. Dang it! I'm trying to. Okay, never mind. So, I guess he still has the shadow loop. I wasn't paying. Yeah, sorry for the rumbling, folks. I'm not exactly good at this yet.
Yeah, I mean, so far we're seeing that Dragon's kind of able to clean up the board on his own right here. Um, I believe the card in his hand is a Shadow Knight, but I could be wrong. I may have lost track, but yeah, I apologize if that is the case. But yeah, you're seeing him just kind of cleaning up the board there, but Leonardo Vieta is just going to continue staying the course, drawing and kind of sculpting his position to what he wants to be. He likely has a turn renewal in hand. As we saw, he had one earlier in the event, so I would not anticipate him siding it out.
Yep, that would definitely help him out right now.
I don't think he's at the point he needs it yet.
Yeah.
I don't think he's at the point he needs it yet.
I would probably pop
the
Soul Reaper just to thin out the allies from my deck, so that whenever I recycle with the Eternal Renewal, I'm grabbing more things like Mind Controls and Shadow Fonts and Answers. Because at this point, the game has gone on long enough that he just pops the Eternal Renewal straight away for going the healing.
I think the Eternal Renewal is the better call here, because I think it's a little greedy to pop the Soul Reaper now, because sure, that may allow him to thin his deck into nothing but answers, but it's a little bit hard to win a match where you have nothing but answers and not many threats, not much of a win condition. So it's a little bit rough. It's a little greedy to do that, but he figured that was as good a time as any to go the turn renewal route. He wasn't facing down a ton of pressure, so he figured he could take the turn off to do that and just restock and reload. And we're seeing Mind Control for the first time, for the fourth time, I think.
And again, he's just saying, you know what, Disciple of Voldemort? No, that's a bad disciple. Just look at Morbid Acolyte. You see him? That's a good Acolyte. I will say this, that Acolyte has put in work. He has been sitting there for a long time.
Indeed.
I have a feeling he's not long for this world.
Yeah, I think they're not going to stay around forever. They've paid for themselves so far already, but as there is still likely a Soul Reaper somewhere for Leo, and we've seen him have many answers on his own, they're likely going to be answered in short order. Interesting. Now, with that Acolyte here, Blind Dragon can use the ability of the Acolyte to turn off the Disciple's immunity, and maybe use that to kind of get rid of him, considering that in a way that would usually be very difficult.
Personally, for me, I probably would have just put everything I had towards getting Zaldar's health low. I mean, 4 damage, 6 damage total. If you don't kill any more allies, Zaldar has no way to heal right now, and that 6 damage could be very, very relevant to finishing this game.
It could technically be really relevant, but considering that he's still at 10, and you're still facing down, I believe it was 4 damage, there's, unlike Bedru, you can't put a lot of burst damage on the hero to really push him a lot, and Bimbo was already at 16. It might have been a little bit rough to kind of go for that outright, knowing that he has access to more fonts, more threats, more mind controls, and a Soul Reaper whenever he decides to do it.
Ooh, and there's the Behemoth and a good old-fashioned Thaddeus dropping down to the field.
Yeah, I anticipate mind control descending from above to rid us of that Behemoth.
If he's got it. I mean, he may have to dig for it, and if I'm Banebo, that's exactly what I want him to do. I want him to be trying to get rid of that, because as long as one of those 2 allies lives, this game can be mopped up very neatly. if either of those allies dies, there's still some competition. If I'm Zaldar right now, I'm looking for that mind control, or I'm really looking for my Soul Reaper. Now is the time that I really need that extra health.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, now's the time you need, but I think as a true mark of patience, if you're Leo, you technically are not in a danger zone, whereas right now a danger zone for you would be 5 or so, considering that your opponent's ability is not charged, they do not have a weapon, they have no hand, and you can kill at least one, maybe both of their allies this turn.
There we see the Darkwood Wraith putting the Thaddeus back out of play.
Interesting. So,
and the Soul Reaper going to heal him back up, try and get him out of the Plasma Behemoth's kill range.
Yeah, and what we're going to see right now is we're likely to see, depending upon the attack, you're likely to see the Behemoth clean up one, maybe both allies. Yeah, and we're going to see Liu just take the safe and patient route and not try and weaken the Behemoth with an attack and just go straight for the hero.
He's got to be a little bit concerned that there's another Soul Seeker coming, because another Soul Seeker right here lets his opponent take the board and completely close the health gap. And that's the last thing you want when you're staring down the barrel of a Behemoth.
Oh, absolutely.
And here we see he's just going to tell that Morbid Acolyte good night. Drop a Crash to the field, a little more threat there, and then just put a little love on Zaldar. Just bring that health disparity down in a different way.
Absolutely. Considering we didn't see a mind control last turn, which I would think we would see it if he had it, but he didn't. We didn't see it, so maybe he didn't have it. So it'd be interesting to see if he, with 11 resources, he has more than enough to dig.
Well, he's looking for the mind control, or was, as mentioned by Pelstitch in the chat, he could also go a Shadow Font and pull out of the situation. Yes. He has options here.
Yes, a Font would easily do just as much to take it back.
But the issue you're kind of looking at is if he has to invest so much effort into just getting that Plasma Behemoth on the field, what's he going to do about the other two allies that are sitting there waiting?
Ooh, he kept interference in. Well, that Font is going to allow him to kill off possibly 2 allies.
The question here is what's more threatening, Banebo's HP or the Crash? Obviously, he picked the Crash.
So that sounds like a fair enough play right there. See if he has another threat to contribute to the board as well.
He does indeed. One that Banebo did not want to
see. The key threat of the matchup, Disciple, very, very difficult to deal with. You know, we're just going to see. Now, the Thaddeus, it'll be interesting to see which target the Thaddeus targets. Likely, high chance it's one of the 2 allies, but it'll be interesting to see which one of them he picks.
He's just going to spread the damage nice and even all around the board there. Oh, he did not proc his ability. He chose to hold on to it.
I can't altogether blame him for that. Considering that there really aren't many profitable ways for him to use his ability, and if he uses it, he won't be able to use it next turn as well. So I can understand him doing that.
Zaldar basically saying, I've got threats, and I'm just going to play all of them now.
Emptying out his hand to do so.
If you're Lion Dragon here, you're kind of hoping that you were able to catch a Soul Seeker as some sort of way of killing one of these threats, but unfortunately he was not able to.
If I'm Banebo right now, that turn disappointed me greatly. Depending on how aggressive Lion Dragon decides to, or Leo decides to be, that could very easily be game.
Absolutely.
I'd say that's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, he's just putting the pedal to the metal and just slamming every threat he can and just pushing and pushing and pushing, and he may be pushing much harder now than Lion Dragon can answer. I mean, maybe if Fury in Terror is able to push back a little bit with with the ability. There may be a couple of answers, but he's very, very quickly running out of time
A
as he's
Fury and
currently dead
Terror,
on board.
a Fury and Terror with a Thaddeus and
He's just gonna
no
pass the turn.
cards.
He's said
That's
I've got nothing, and I'm just gonna end the game.
And Leo proves that he is an absolute monster, and he is not going to let Lion Dragon get vengeance on him for yesterday, and progresses on to the semis.
Yep, he's Lion Dragon extends the hand virtually, if you will.
And that's going to put K.A. Leo against Monomax, giving them a nice little pass off to see who wins the winner's bracket. And then the Black Mask versus Raphael Majir will determine who faces Lying Dragon. And then Mojo Jojo and K.A. Henson will determine who faces Slowtown. The winner of those two matches will go to a final losers bracket game to move back up and face off against the winner of K.A. Leo and Monomax.
Absolutely, we are getting down to the nitty gritty, folks.
We are indeed. It's important to note that even if Lying Dragon comes back, he's had to play an entire extra match just to get back to where he was now. And people may not think that takes its toll, but remember, Lying's been playing a very long time for the past several days. If he isn't exhausted now, I am creating a Lying Dragon energy drink. And we just got a report in from our tournament organizers. Black Mask has 2-1 Raphael Majir, meaning he will be the one who continues on to face down against Lion Dragon's Bane Bow to determine which one goes on to the semifinals.
Yes, and that means that Lion Dragon is that Raphael Major, is unfortunately leaving us from this event.
It is unfortunate news. Rafa Majir has always been a very high-end competitive player, but I have to say I'm glad to see a Bataru making it.
Absolutely, I'm hoping that Bataru may have the strength to go the distance. Yeah, Nero makes a comment in the chat that Black Mask may be a champ killer at this point. That if I'm him, I'm relishing that title. He's ousted both Eclipse and Rafa Majir from this tournament in the losers bracket.
He has. I mean, he has had by no means an easy time of getting as far as he has, and he's doing it with a resource destruction batter. I mean, I don't know how many more props you can give someone. We talked about this kind of during his World Championship qualifier. This has to be a deck he plays a lot to be this comfortable with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Agreed.
So then let's get back to seeing K.A. Leo and watching his progress against Monomax. Most likely be a moment while they both reset their decks and Monomax gets back to the game.
Okay, and which jumping into the game. We're gonna jump into a matchup for you guys so we can continue the coverage. Let's see which matches there are currently ongoing so that we can have one to showcase for you guys in the meantime.
And we'd love to show you guys the semifinals before we hand back over. We have about a little less than an hour left before we hand back over to the GDC Trevor combination to finish out the event for us. So, you guys in the chat, who are you picking to win it at this point? We have 4 total options for you. It could be K.A. Leo, Monomax, Lying Dragon versus the Black Mask battle. Oh, and the Slowtown versus the winner of the Mojo Jojo versus K.A. Henson battle. So I thought there were 4. There are actually 6 competitors left.
Apparently, Henson lost.
Apparently
Yes,
Henson has lost.
yeah.
I am waiting confirmation from our TOs.
Yes, I believe he has lost to BP Emigor 2-1, I believe.
In which case, it'll be Slowtown versus Mojo Jojo 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 Mojo Jojo Jojo Jojo.
Jojo. There we go. Can't have too many JoJos in that name. Just you can't.
Looks like we are still waiting for KA Leo and Monomax to begin their games.
Okay. Wow, I believe I don't believe there aren't any games going on at the time. I've just checked and I haven't found any of the games going on.
To answer BP Mip's question in our chat, yes, I was a huge Powerpuff Girls fan back in the day. I totally get where the title comes from. I just really like saying it with a lot of extra JoJos. Which, by the way, are what apparently some people call steak fries when you get them at like the cheap gas stations where they're like huge and coated in like some kind of seasoning. They call them JoJos.
Hey. Oh.
And now I'm hungry, so thanks for that.
Somewhere there's a rainbow floating over with the phrase "Now you know."
And knowing is half the battle.
Isn't it?
So, Kilt is asking in chat if we have 2 KA and 2 BP. I actually do not know Slowtown's guild affiliation off the top of my head. Then yes, it would. I've got confirmation he is in KA. So that means we currently have an A1 player versus a BP player. KA player versus a BP player, and then a KA player versus a TJ player. So yeah, all 4 guilds seem to be represented very well at the moment. Indeed, I have confirmation that I was not completely out of my mind. All 4 of our biggest guilds still have players vying for the end of this. I would imagine the guild IRC channels are just filled with cheerleaders at the moment. So, Dimcheap, still being an affiliated member of a guild, do you have a hopeful on this?
Demenchi?
Hello?
There you are.
There you are.
Yeah, I sent you guys a message. Never mind. It's all good now.
Oh.
Okay.
So as I was asking, we kind of just realized that we still have all 4 guilds represented in this tournament. 2 BP, 2 KA, 1 A1, and 1 TJ. And I was curious, you still having a guild affiliation, do you have a particular hopeful on this?
A1 all the way.
So if Dimchi using his moderating powers to just really hope Lion Dragon can pull it off.
Oh, I have no doubt that he can. Well, I mean,
I kind of feel like a traitor. You know, A1 was my guild for a very, very long time, but I have to root for Black Mask right now. I have to really, really hope that a Batteroo makes it.
Oh, it would be awesome if Batteroo made it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Currently,
I'm not biased, Joey.
Currently, there is no one particular player here that I feel is a favorite. Although I do feel that KA Leo is possibly the strongest competitor so far, seeing that he powered through yesterday in the winners bracket and only lost very late, and he's doing the same today. So if there's a feared or a most feared player in this tournament, it's likely him so far.
Well, I'm going to say if KA Leo makes it to the finals, if he actually bests Monomax, Whether Lying Dragon, Black Mask, or Monomax makes it, they're all people that KA Leo put down into the loser's bracket. So he has a
Yeah.
very strong showing against almost any competitor that's already down there, aside from Slowtown and Mojo Jojo. Jojo.
Sitting on two chairs. Okay. No. I agree. He's a lot of the players that he's likely to face are players who he has already faced, which may lead to some interesting decision making in any matches he has against them. It may lead to interesting decision making in how he sides against them when it's time for him to sideboard, as he's already played against them. He already knows the kind of decision making strategies that they intend on using, especially against him, that may give him a little bit of an edge.
Not to mention, if he and Monomax finish their matchup rather quickly, if they can wrap this up and he can actually relax while the other games, they still have to go through their current match and another after that just to be able to come back and face him. If he can wrap that up fast enough, he actually has a chance at a little bit of a break, a little bit of rest, and that really can make a difference for him at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, although he's such a deliberate player, I'm not really sure if the match would go quickly, as any matches we've seen with him have been very detail-oriented and drawn-out matches. But it could easily happen.
Agreed. I mean, if I'm him, I'm really wanting that break. I'm really looking for it, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it. He's a very methodical player. I think that the other two games are going to be able to wrap up quick enough to still to give him very, very little, if any, break.
And I believe the Mojo Jojo game has started. Alright, so what's the IGN for that? So we can pull that up and start streaming that for you guys. Let's see.
Well, we were going to wait for the KA Leo game, but it seems that they're going to be an extra minute or two, and we don't want to make you guys sit here and have to wait forever. So let's get in to a game that's already in progress. BP Imigor versus KA Slowtown.
Yeah. So let's jump in on that right now, and
We have
a Zaladar mirror.
beautiful Zaladar mirror. We have a lot of Zaladar going on at the moment. Got Zaladar with Zaladar sleeves
Versus Zaladar with sleeves we don't see very often, actually. Cover of Night. So it'll be interesting to see if having that extra, card or two in his deck is really pivotal to turning the corner.
Well, we've seen threads before about the hypergeometry of 39 cards is great, but if you're at 39 and adding 3 more cards that are just draw can really just skyrocket you. They come up with some really, really nice mathematical ideas that 40 being exactly at that perfect mark isn't always the best way to go.
Nope. Yeah, I believe, the controversial conclusion was that if you are in 40 and there's an additional card you need, cutting another card to stay at 40 is not always a clean cut and correct call. Sometimes just adding it is the way to go. Now, all that being said, we are in the match. It's very much, as Zalamers tend to be, a slugfest early on. As you can see, Emigor is prioritizing that Gargoyle very highly, as he can be very much a thorn in Zaldar's side in this matchup. And Ironhide Crash is not as dominant as he would be in other matchups, so he's just going to let him sit around for a little bit, knowing that his is very much so not going to be around for a while.
So, for those who aren't familiar with hypergeometry and how it works with the deck building, the essential idea is you build with the idea of I need specific cards on specific turns. And so you try to get those exact cards on those exact turns, and you just put enough of them in to give you the right odds. Because sometimes adding a fourth card only increases your odds of getting your turn 4 play by like 2%. Sometimes it's better not to even bother with that extra 2% and to go for more numbers in other areas. It is another layer of deck building. It's very impressive to see what some players have done with it. I'm curious to see if any of that did go into deck building here, because we're seeing some very, very well curve out by KA Slowtown.
Yes. Oh, Martin Jeff asked a question about it as hasn't seen anything about that on the forums. And one of the main things we're referencing is there was a post a while ago, long time ago, by a player who had introduced it as something to the forums, as something to the Shadowrun community through the forums. And it's a thread that hasn't seen much activity in a very long time. But he referenced, for those of you who are not very mathematically inclined or just don't have the time to do it, he posted a link to a calculator online that could just run the numbers for you and kind of help you tweak and adjust your deck mathematically that way. So we'll have to see if we can resurrect that thread at some point. But it's a different way of deck building other than just kind of by feel and by gut. Ike Smith asks in the chat if anybody's actually ever used that to build deck building, and I can tell you firsthand. I don't know how much Shadow uses, but I know in many other card games, a lot of the top tier players swear by it. You know, that's why you see them having lots of odd decks built with one-offs of this and that, or weird kind of curves. I know that anybody on the team can tell you I swear by it. I end up having really weird deck numbers, but it helps me guarantee 70-80% chances of having exactly what I need when I need it, and I use it in my deck building. It helps me immensely. And for those of you who are trying to find it without the forum thread, it's called hypergeometric calculations. And I'll see if I can resurrect the thread for you guys. Leave it to you.
And here we see Zaldar. Well, we see Imigor just made an impressive play to just consume the board as much as possible, forcing Zaldar into a surprising mind control on a gargoyle.
Yeah, some people might ask why he picked the gargoyle over the Fear and Terror, as the Fear and Terror is more imposing of a threat. In some matches, yes, but in this matchup, no. Considering his ability is up next turn, and he'll be able to get rid of the Furion, and that's fine. But the Gargoyle is an ally in this matchup that is just a big tank and will eat up a lot of damage and be very difficult to deal with. So he has to prioritize it highly.
Kind of an interesting play, seeing the Shadow Vein in the mirror, knowing it's going to charge the opposing Zaldar as fast as it charges you, if not faster.
True, but it may well be that he does have a Soul Reaper or an Infinity Core or something to regain the life lost and just kind of use it for pure advantage. Because Shadow Vein just slamming in for the 2 damage plus the ability is, always a strong play.
There we see him leveraging extremely well his ability and another mind control to mop the board back up. Both Zaldars now have fully charged abilities again. And Zaldar countering with his, Imigor countering with his own mind control versus Gargoyle fight.
Yep, showing that he prioritizes it just as highly as his opponent.
And the question is, does he want to use his ability here, or is he going to hold off with that Shadow Vein and his ability for a little while longer? And nope, he's going to go ahead and charge up a little bit more. Both heroes extremely close in life and countered with a Shadow Vein. This is about to be a ridiculous amount of shadow energy.
This is going to be very much a damage race here. So it's interesting to see their approach to this specific matchup. Not adjusting too much in game 1 and just playing this is pretty much the same way they would play any other matchup. but Emigor does have more cards in hand. And
Imigor has the lower health, but the more options at this point, and it's going to be very, very valid as to which one he'd rather at this point.
well, it's going to be interesting to see if he does have a card such as Soul Reaper, which might not give him a ton of advantage. Ooh, interesting. I don't. That's a bit of a rough call there. I don't know if I would have made that call, as that puts him in a scary, scary position.
Well, basically what it does is it sets it up so that if if Slowtown can't kill him this turn, he could drop the Soul Reaper or something along those same lines and pop it back in.
Yeah, it seems very, very bold to play the Shadow Vein before the Soul Reaper. Risking his health possibly being dwindled away here. And his opponent simply does not have a way to do that, so he's going to wait a turn, possibly with a Thaddeus in hand to close the game out if Emigor does not heal right here. So, yeah, I wonder. And he does not.
Ooh, he just does a sack land bomb. Just trying to get more cards into his hand.
Interesting.
This is going to come down to the heal or the wire.
It's basically a Thaddeus check for Mr. Slowtown. Does he have it? Well, let's see him play it out. He's gonna hit with the ability, because the match is likely to end inside the next turn.
Ooh.
And he does not.
He doesn't have the wrap up. So does Imigor have the wrap up then?
Imigor has him on board.
Soul Reaper comes out.
Well, even without the Soul Reaper, he had him on board. But my goodness, what a tight matchup.
Ooh, that was a very, very close game. Those mirrors, they are just always so much fun. And the KA Leo versus Monomax game is going. Seeing as how that is our winner's bracket, it makes sense to kind of get in there and see how that goes.
Indeed, folks, indeed. So we're gonna hop over to that.
The match is underway, but it's only 5 minutes in, and like we said earlier, these kinds of games tend to take a lot of sack decisions and a little bit of time, so I imagine we'll catch up relatively quickly. As easily predicted, we see another Banebo versus Zaldar matchup. Lewis and Ninja, we just watched the Zaldar versus Banebo matchup just a few minutes ago. We saw Leo do extremely well against it. What do you think he's going to do against this one?
I think he's going to start, approaching with the same strategy he had before. I mean, considering he's been playing so long and has such an exhausting evening so far, I believe it's an evening for him. I mean, he may feel like he's seeing double. He may feel like this is just almost the same matchup as last time, just a continuation, where he's going to play it the same way, prioritizing the gargoyles, maybe siding in Disciples when the time comes for that. Just, stay the course the way he did in the last matchup.
So, Dimchi, a question for you. So, we talk a lot about the endurance of this game. So you can catch up. K.A. Leo was the winner of yesterday's event, meaning he played every game of the event from beginning to finish. He only had a small break before playing the finale. And then he comes back today, and he's right back at it, and he's played every game. He hasn't lost a game yet. He hasn't lost a match yet. He's pushed through to this point. Monomax just had a really nice long break while he waited for Leo to catch up. Do you think that's going to play a factor in this game?
It should. I mean, if you're tired, you definitely. It depends on how focused you can be. When you're tired, it varies from person to person. I know when I'm tired, I kind of don't make good decisions.
Yeah, I mean,
this is another thing. Oh, good.
Oh, no, I was going to say that, I mean, it's not exactly like this matchup is a slam dunk in favor of either hero. It's just a very, very tight matchup, and it comes down to lots of small forms of incremental advantage. So whether or not you know, both players are really going to have to be very meticulous in their decision making, which Leo's already shown him. So it's going to push both of them to see, does Marmax have what it takes to knock Leo into the losers bracket for the first time of the day.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I think that, again, we're kind of at the same point where we were yesterday in watching the finals for the winners bracket. Either of these players loses, goes down to the losers bracket, wins their way back up. It won't be shocking to see them again. It's really just both these players deserve to be here. They both deserve to win this event. What's going to be interesting is if KA Leo can make a clean sweep of this and just wrap up the World Championships today and get crowned.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, he's fought long and hard, and if anybody deserves it or has earned it, it's him. He's pushed his way through all this and shown that he's definitely a top tier player, if not the current top tier player. I mean, he clearly has a bullseye on his back, and he's playing as such.
Personally, I am still hopeful of that Bataroo to come back and be like, hey, I'm a Bataroo deck. I just won a World Championship. Deal.
It's like I'm a bad man. Let's see if he can make a comeback.
Both players are just making this purely about a fight for the board. Very little damage to the heroes so far. Just everything is about keep the board under control.
Well, Zelda has taken a decent amount of damage, but he's semi-stabilized. But that's something that Shadow Knight's going to really push against him.
Well, also bear in mind that while Zaldar seems to have taken a lot of damage, a single Soul Reaper will easily put him back up to match. What's going to matter now is if he can deal with that Shadow Knight for that to stay true. That Shadow Knight's one swing away from completely validating that.
Yeah, well, we're seeing the crashes here in this matchup that are typically not as strong as they could be in other matchups, but we're definitely seeing them kind of soak up some damage here.
There we see, the Banebo had the option. He could have just put everything on the hero. He's still going to play it smart and keep the board under control.
I mean, if you're Leo here, are you starting to plan for the next game, or do you think you still have a dog in this fight?
You still have a dog in this fight, definitely. You still have a lot of options at your disposal. It's just going to be a matter of can you get them fast enough, or is that Shadow Knight going to mop you up next turn? And notice there he chose not to go with the Soul Seeker. He's not going to try and turn this into a race. He's going to play it nice, calm, and cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is still at full health, which is kind of, something that Zaldar is not particularly worried about yet, considering that he has a long way to fight through before his opponent's health is a target that's relevant for him. But Monomax is just being very deliberate and making sure that he's not allowing his opponent to have many outs, if any.
And there we see the Soul Reaper keep bringing the life right back up, but like we said, that one turn where he just took that extra bit of damage off the ability in the crash, suddenly that damage became very, very real, very, very relevant. I don't think Zaldar is going to be able to pull it back out at this point.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is right now what you're also seeing just how hard it is for Zaldar to maintain tempo and keep up in the match when he does not have an antimatter going. He doesn't have much to do with his resources, and he's just got very few resources.
There you see Banebo's going to go ahead and use that Soul Seeker, put that little bit of damage on. He's not going to let this come down to the 2 damage he didn't deal. Now with Zaldar having very few options for wiping out that many allies, He's going to drop the mind control, take care of that Shadow Knight, but I just don't think he has the ability to really take out that much damage in one turn.
Agreed.
And with 6 damage just going straight to the dome like that, next turn is Banebo's ability charged. That's a game.
Yeah, I can't see many outs for him right now.
Oh, and there's the Soul Seeker. Banebo's not going to give him a chance to take it out. He's just going to whop this up right now and take it on to game 2. Very well played by Monomax. Very well played.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Leo was due having a match where he stumbled a little bit. So if I'm Leo, I'm happy getting that out of the way as the first game, where I have maybe 2 more games to come back instead of having to happen in game 2 or game 3 where I'm down a game, and have that be a game to push me into the loser bracket.
At the same time, though, he's kind of revealed his weakness now. He's kind of shown how dependent he is on that antimatter. If I'm Monomax, I'm just thinking, okay, 4 Shrieks, prioritize the antimatter, and I should be able to mop this up and progress on to be a finalist.
Absolutely.
And also, not to mention, Monomax just came back from that break. If he can mop this next game up and do it as quickly as he did that one, if he can make it another quick 15-minute game, while the other ones are taking 20, 30 minutes to finish and they still have multiple games to go through, he could be looking at getting a little bit more rest, and that really can be vital for decision making.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that can definitely buy him some very, very much needed time to just recoup and maybe scout his opponent's matches and just really kind of give his brain a little bit of a rest so that he can come in focused and tuned and ready for the next matchup.
It's also the fact that he gives him a little bit of time to go through and scout his opponents without the pressure of the game on. When I say rest, we're not talking about going home and taking a nap. That probably isn't the best idea. But getting something to drink, getting a snack, and being able to just lean back and just watch other people's games, maybe talk with your guildmates about what they've scouted, having those extra few moments can be so critical at these levels of play. Just that extra little bit of clarity. Such a vital piece.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm peeking in on the Lion Dragon match, and it's Dragon is playing deliberately as he often does. It's still very, very early, too early to call, but looking forward to the Monomax team to come back. In this matchup, do you think Leo's sideboards the same way he's been sideboarding, or do you think that he adjusts a little bit to a possibly more aggressive approach by Monomax than he faced with Lion Dragon?
I think, honestly, the tech he used against Lion Dragon, we saw those Aldmore Disciples, we saw those Darkwood Wraiths. I think those are going to be his big things. He needs to get those, and he needs to get those as soon as possible. FDL has mentioned that we should have a drinking game for our dear friend Soothslayer, where every time he says absolutely, you drink. We do not support intoxication to the point of poisoning, so we're going to advise against that game.
I would recommend we do the same one within the word indeed, as he comes up quite often.
I just like the word indeed. Like, I'm not even talking about the guy's name. It's like one of my favorite words.
It's just a great word. The Lion Dragon match may have frozen. Because I'm watching now and it's been hung on the same turn for a little while now. It may have frozen. Which is tragic.
Well, while we're kind of in the dip here, Kyle, I believe earlier we gave out 3 of the playmats. If you're still on headset, that is.
Yeah, it's time for the one that everyone's after, the Aeon playmat.
I think now's a great time to hand out that Aeon playmat.
You still have your 20-sided die at hand?
Always.
I'm starting to believe that Mr. Nacho is like Clint Eastwood with his dice, just waiting to whip it out at a moment's notice.
And we have just rolled an 11. And it looks like bracket player number 11 was iClips.
Yes, some
Alright,
love for our
congrats.
former champion there.
So a Matt worthy of his title.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, congrats to you, iClips. You may not be able to repeat as a champion, but you do not walk away empty-handed. None of the players do actually, but yes, you have an Aeon playmat. So,
Well, just kind of talking
Right.
about former champions, I think iClips is going to be really coming back and really showing us what he's made of, because I think he's one of the players who's going to do extremely well in the Shattered Fates meta.
Absolutely. I mean, as the game expands, it becomes more depth to it and more intricate card interactions. I think players like iClips and like K, Leo, and Line Dragon, where they're very meticulous with their decision making, I think that'll really expand and allow them to shine a little bit.
I think it's going to be a fantastic change to the game for them.
Couldn't agree more.
And our everyone's favorite accident, TJ Samuel. And for those who don't get the joke, he is actually our official organized play specialist, or OOPS. Would like everyone to know that he stepped back from the World Championship this year because he felt some other people deserved a chance.
True. That's truth right there. Let's see. Do we have another match to queue up in the meantime?
Well, we really, really do not want to miss the end of the Monomax versus KAL or Leo. So hopefully they manage to get their second match going pretty quickly for us.
Agreed.
Especially since we only have about 20 more minutes on this stream before we need to hand back over to GDC and Jumbo to wrap up the day.
Yes, we'll be handing the baton back, and thank you guys for giving us your time and your viewership, and we'll be closely spying the finals event so that we can be here with you guys. Yes, the match is getting ready to start.
And we talk a lot about how tired we are from all this, but we volunteered for these shifts because we really, really were excited to show this stuff off to you guys.
And Black Mass and Black Mass and Line Dragon are one apiece, I believe. So they're going to be.
I'm kind of curious now. Black Mask, having spent so much time in these events, I mean, he got into here off the qualifier just a few weeks ago. He's here now with it. If he's going to just become kind of like we were talking earlier about how Sisyphus is related to Banebow, is Black Mask going to become how we think of Bataru?
It may be. I mean, he's certainly championed him well enough, and he's shown that Bataru does not receive as much respect as he deserves.
It's kind of nice to see not only is he getting the respect, but I'm kind of curious if Black Mask could be one of those players who just, through thick and thin, through good metas and bad, if he's just going to hold on to that Bataru and be like, this is my hero from now on.
That could easily be the case. I mean we a lot of the players, especially a lot of top tier players, kind of find that hero, that style that works for them, and they just kind of hone and practice with it a lot. As far as the Line Dragon and Black Mask are in their third match now, they're starting that up, and it's looking to be a close one. So we'll keep giving you guys updates and tabs on that.
We may actually have to flash over to it because we are still waiting on KA Leo and Monomax to go up, and while I would hate to miss their finale, I don't want everyone just sitting here staring at a screen for forever.
Well, come on in. The water's fine. The Black Mass match is looking good.
Alrighty. You see the epic battle of Shadow Hunters. Two hunters that did very, very well in the opening of the DP meta, but kind of slipped into obscurity during the heyday of it.
Yeah, so very early on, the Badru was relatively commonly used, but he fell off quite dramatically. So Black Mass is definitively making a play to show people that he's just every bit deserving as much respect as Zaldar and Banebo and a lot of the other very prominent heroes are.
And here we see they're both going for extremely aggressive openings, Battery relying on his ability a bit more, and Banebo just flooding the board with as many allies as he can get out. And there we see a nice job by Banebo cleaning up the board and putting a little bit of extra damage on Bataroo. Both players doing an excellent job of just vying for the board. Banebo has the slight upper hand, just in terms of he has a little more damage on the hero, got a few more allies on the board, but Bataroo is by no means in a bad position at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is very much a slugfest right now, where neither one of them wants to let the board get too far behind. So they're prioritizing it quite highly.
We see Banebo in a really good position, staying really, really low on the resources, just denying Bataroo his resource destruction abilities.
Well, maybe that may also be that he just simply has no reason to go up in his resources right now, so he's just gonna, stay the course, stay where he's comfortable. As long as he can keep providing threats and providing, pressure, he might not see a reason to go up.
It's very, very true. He's doing very well with those three resources at the moment. Bataroo is kind of on the ropes right now. Now we say on the ropes. Any second now he can drop his killer 1-2 combo and just be coming right back from it. So I definitely wouldn't write him out just yet.
Oh, absolutely. Now I'm curious if as we saw earlier, Black Mask using Night Prowler to powerful effect, if that's a card that Lion Dragon has to respect in this matchup as something that could have a pretty strong impact.
I think absolutely. I think you have to be concerned that, especially with the lack of draw engine we've seen on his behalf so far, if he drops that rapid fire KP combo again, that could actually spell doom for Banebo very quickly.
It very much so could. I'm a little bit curious as to why Lion Dragon either left in or sided in Disciples, considering that Black Mask's ability doesn't really slow his ability down as much.
There's still a high health, good, solid ally that takes a lot to get rid of. They're essentially a 4-cost version of Gargoyle, and I think that that's something you really do want against a weapon hero.
I mean, that may have been the logic. That he just might have sided in as, a vanilla 4-cost 2/6. That might have been the logic there. I mean, I know why Black Mask sided them in, but that may have been Lion Dragon's best option in that case. It might not have been the best option in the world, but it might have been the best one he had.
You see Banebo dropping his own Soul Seeker, trying to clean up the board a little bit, just trying to bring things back under control.
And you see him using that as a way of getting rid of the Disciple, which would have been very difficult for him to deal with otherwise.
You see him working. Oh, there comes an acid jet from Black Mask. You see, both of them are very determined to keep weapons as not part of the equation on this game. The biggest difference being that Banebo can operate very well without his weapon. Batteru really wants to keep a weapon on the field for more than a turn.
Yeah, Bedu really needs it. Now, I'm curious, what do you think of the odds that Bedu has a weapon or has had a weapon and elected not to use it because he wants to get maximum value out of it by using his ability to bring it in a little bit stronger?
There we see the Fury and Terror getting leveraged really well. Going to try and clean this board back up in his favor once again. Taking the time to make sure to bury that Shadow Knight. He has answers to the Knights, but he doesn't want a loop going right now.
I don't know. I mean, if I'm Monomax, I'm not. Loop isn't something that scares me the most, but I can definitely see him prioritizing and respecting it. It'll be interesting to see, does he have another weapon destruction card in hand?
He does. The Acid Jet comes down, cleans it up, and now Batteru's going to be able to even this game back out a little bit.
Yeah, so if I'm Lion Dragon, I'm a little bit annoyed none of my weapons have stuck at all.
I'm also going to be a little bit annoyed that I know that there are two snare traps out, so I was just going to have to waste that entire turn playing into them.
Well, see, the scary part is not then. The scary part is, does he have a Night Prowler in hand?
And
Which
he does. Jinx. Now, if I'm Baneball, I'm in a top decking position. There are certain cards I need, that being one of them right off the bat. But I'm also in a play it or lose it kind of situation at the moment. I really can't afford to have anything stay in my hand.
Well, absolutely. I mean, right now, that Behemoth was a fantastic rip off the top there. That was the perfect top deck where his opponent can't really profitably kill it right at the time. And with Banebo's ability fully charged, he can just clean up both gargoyles and just continue to add more pressure. But I don't know if I would have attacked into the gargoyle right there and just...
He didn't have much of a choice. If he didn't kill the gargoyle, he would have lost his Behemoth the next turn. So he had to choose between the card in his hand or the Behemoth on the field, and he just decided to keep the Behemoth on the field was the higher priority.
Absolutely.
Anyways, he's going to fish and see what that extra card is that he can get now. Play a Behemoth of his own. An interesting choice by Banebo not to sack that Behemoth last turn.
Indeed. And considering that he might not have wanted his opponent to... I mean, he might have chose to kept it just in case his opponent decided to kill his Banebo with maybe Fury and Terror and Attack or something, just in case he did have the chance to actually play it. Because I guess he figured that if his opponent attacked into him and stole it, he had a way to kill it on board, so he wasn't too frustrated about it. And with the Shadow Knights in his deck, he might have actually had a chance to get it back.
Yeah, that Nightcrawler's done a lot of good, but the thing is, I almost have to call Plasma Behemoth as the MVP right now. Plasma Behemoth came down and is like, okay, let's play this game.
And Plasma Behemoth is currently turning this game around, just chipping away at every piece of advantage that Black Mask has had, and that's something that's going to be relevant if it's not dealt with soon. And it is now being dealt with.
He finally had the chance to deal with it. It took two Thaddeus pings and a hit from a weapon, but he's finally cleared the board of that nightmare of a Behemoth. And there you see why Behemoth is such a deal with me card. I mean, he killed what, 4 allies, a weapon, and a armor on the course of his course there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Behemoth has an insane damage output and is highly respected for good reason.
Boy, this situation right here is feeling familiar. Good weapon on the board, a little bit of protection going down. If I'm Banebo, now I've got to be nervous that a second KP is going to be played. We know he does run 2.
Yeah, if I'm him, I'm a little bit concerned about it. And there it does come.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, Night Prowler showing itself to be very much a sleeper card for this event, and pretty strong a play there.
And we're going to be kind of cutting it down to the wire here. We do have a time limit on our stream, and we are cutting it extremely close at the moment.
Yeah, the reason why we have a time limit is the amount of time that we're allowed to export, so that we can record it, so we can export it to YouTube for you guys. So that for those of you who cannot watch it live or do not have access to Twitch or anything of that nature, who prefer to watch it, the recorded version of it, or for some of the players who want to watch the replay because they were playing, they couldn't pay attention to the stream, and we export it for you guys, but there's a time limit that we have to work around when we're exporting.
And then we see the 4 health of the Shadow Knight being exactly perfect to take a damage off from that Grunler's Double and prevent the Night Prowler from being able to just drive it home and deny card advantage. Instead, Banebo is actually allowed to get some.
Well, interesting, now that we're seeing that Badu is out of cards in hand. He's out of cards in deck, so he's got 0 cards in deck and 6 cards in hand, so he's going to have to find a way to win with what he's got. And he's just electing to just go with what he's got and just attack straight into his opponent and get the most out of it.
There we see he is getting rid of that Wrath of the Forest right off the bat. And he's going to have to sacrifice the Night Prowler. He's just going to have to hope at some point he can get enough weapon, which at this point he might be digging or hoping for that Rapid Fire. If he's got that Rapid Fire in hand and he's got another Soul Seeker, he's got the game.
That may be it. I mean, it's a real question of, did he hold on to it? I mean, I can't see why he wouldn't have, but it's a real question of, does he have the game in hand?
He did not have the Rapid Fire in hand. He is just going to try and buy one more turn and hope that that Banebo's next card is not an item destruction, that he can't blow up that Runner's Double. Ooh, and the Enchanted Forest just won the game for Bataru. Black Mask is continuing on. With that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end our broadcast and give you guys over to the capable hands of Gondorian and Mojumbo. You guys take care.